Okay, so we're joined now by Mario Perez Olea, and I hope I've said that correctly, Mario. I
That's
know we had
correct.
discussion about this in advance. Mario, could you tell us, before we start talking about you being the newest Swedish-based student to Code Institute, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the opportunity. Firstly, yeah. Well, I originally come from Peru. I lived in London for 23 years, and I recently moved to Sweden about 3 years ago. And my career in London has been different. I worked there in different industries. I went from hospitality and catering to working in recruitment, and build up a lot of experience in quite those industries. Coming to Sweden for me was a bit of a challenge because you have to learn the language, you have to sort of adapt to a new culture, and it's not always easy and fast to sort of bring whatever you were doing in your country into a new place. And that kind of really put me into a place where I had to make decisions whether I wanted to continue to do the same thing or maybe start something afresh. And that's why the idea of changing careers came on board. And in fact, coding and computer science has always been in my heart since a very small age. So this is a great chance now for me to sort of start afresh on a new direction, and Code Institute came on board.
Excellent. I'm going to ask you about that in a second, but where exactly in Sweden are you right now?
So we are at the moment in a place called Bollnäs. Not many people know it, but I usually tell them we are very close from a city called Gävle, which is about 2.5, 3 hours drive north from Stockholm. So we are on the north, on the east side. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, now Code Institute itself. So you're on your Code Institute journey. You're very welcome to it. I'm on my own Code Institute journey here at the moment as well, and it's
I have
excellent.
noticed that. So well done for you. Good.
Okay, thank you. But could you tell me, how did you actually find Code Institute itself? How did you come across it for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking about that because so much has been happening in such a short period of time. But no, I saw Code Institute advertisement on Facebook, believe it or not, and I was interested on what they were offering. So I click on the more information, put my details forward, and then I think at the time what they were actually doing is advertising this a 5-day coding test. So that kind of get me hooked in to find out more about the college, what were they actually, offering, and then the rest is history.
Wow. And okay, so why did you choose us? Because we do have a lot of competitors globally. Why did you opt for Code Institute itself?
Yes, that's a very good question. I personally like to always shop around and look at other options. So I don't really like to go for the first thing I see, even when I'm shopping, for regular stuff. So I did a lot of research online. And in fact, I have a lot of friends who are into the programming industry, and they've always say to me, Mario, there is a lot of other options there where you can learn for free. And then I did a little bit of research. Now, what for me, Code Institute really came on top of my list was the fact that they had a really very good flexibility to study something, whether you are really working or you're doing something else. But not only that, but the fact that they have the backing and accreditation from a leading university in Scotland, it means that you are studying towards credits that you can then take with you if you wanted to progress and study somewhere else. That also allows me to go into a job and to say I have a diploma on software development. This is by the by University in Scotland, but at the same time I have the practicality of having work on projects live where it could be very beneficial when you're applying for jobs for big companies. Those were the main things. Code Institute also has been in the business for quite a few years. A lot of the new kind of companies out there, they haven't been very long in the industry, and it shows to me that a lot of students have gone through Code Institute and have gone to land amazing jobs. And on the opening opening night webinar that I had the last time, I was looking at all these testimonials from people, and I was thinking, I want to be one of those guys. I want to be able to say, hey, that was my case. I was also changing directions in life, and this is where I am today. So I'm still hoping to get to that place, but yes, and the staff has been amazing, absolutely, as well.
Well, one of the things about you, you're actually quite famous in our offices, Mario, at this stage. You are for us a groundbreaker, and I mean this in the best possible way. You are a groundbreaker for us in terms of Sweden, because you're the first Swedish-based student who's actually managed to receive funding and approval for funding, and therefore, on account of that, approval from Swedish Council for Higher Education through CSN. Could you tell us a bit more about the finance process itself?
Yes, it was a little bit complicated because obviously I am not native Swedish. So for me, in my case, there had to be a lot more, verification, and I have to be eligible for a lot of things. The great thing for me was that I have a British passport, so Britain being still part of the EU so far for now, that also helped a lot. So for anyone who is in another country, let's say Scandinavia or in mainland Europe, but you are living in Sweden, that can also apply for you. But I think one of the main requirements is that you need to be in Sweden, living and working at least for minimum of 2 years. Yes, and being able to not have applied for any sort of loans or any sort of student funding support before. Then obviously the other part would be the requirements that they need to look into the course, which I managed for the first time to introduce to the Swedish government, Code Institute, the software development diploma, and make sure that they would have seen it and validated it as that they have, and approved it. So in many ways, now the doors are open for anyone else. That makes it a lot easier to apply for funding, because they would have already know and heard about, the course.
Well, no, and that's truly excellent. And of course, it's going to be down to the individuals and eligibility and things like that. In terms of actually, going for I suppose getting in touch from the first time, did you go through the website? Did you make a phone call? Was it straightforward? I know in terms of eligibility, it would have been a little bit tougher because you're not a Swedish national. But was the process, I suppose, beyond that straightforward or difficult?
Yeah, I think for anybody else who is Swedish, for instance, would be a lot easier. I mean, all you do is you go to the website, which is csn.se, and then you sort of look for applying for a course as if you were studying abroad area. So not necessarily for studying a university in Sweden, but you would have to go under the studying abroad finances. And then there is very straightforward. There is an application form where you get to fill up all the details, and they also have a telephone number for any questions if you feel you need a bit of help filling out the form. But yeah, it's very straightforward. They will tell you all the requirements that you need to fill in.
That's really brilliant. Right, my last question for you, Mario, and thanks again for coming on. Okay, you are now a Code Institute student. You're prepping to start the course, and we will be keeping an eye on you here. But tell us, what is the goal for the future, or have you thought about that yet?
It's exciting. I think the future is exciting. I have grown to really feel very close to the values and the vision of Code Institute. What are they doing and achieving? I believe it's a company that's growing. So I want to be very close with everything that's happening with Code Institute. But in terms of the course itself, I want to finish the course as quick as possible. And also another thing I need to mention is one of the requirements for CSN to approve any funding is that you need to commit yourself to do the course in a maximum of 30 to 35 weeks. That would mean that you would need to study between 17 to 20 hours a week. That will consider to be a 50% studying, which is the minimum that you need to show for them to be able to give you funding. So I know that Code Institute allows students to take it very, very relaxed, and you could even take up to about 12 months to study. My challenge is to do it in 7.5. So very excited about that, very pumped up. As soon as I finish this, I want to, jump into an employment position, and continue to learn, continue to develop. Who knows, in the future may want to go into learning how to develop apps. I believe apps is going to be very heavy in the future. It's just keep on learning and and enjoy.